My brake levers are simple pieces of stainless steel tubing. This is half-inch tubing, 32 wall stainless steel, and all I did was bent it. This piece originally is quite long, and I leave it that way so I can get the bend put in it, and then after it's bent and that hole is drilled through it, then I go ahead and I cut it to size on this end and on this end. But originally just a straight piece of tubing, bend it, drill a hole through it, which I'll explain here in a moment, and then flatten it on one end. Of course, this is not finished. This is just an in-work video. And then another piece of tubing, of course, stainless steel. This is a 1/4 inch 32 wall piece of stainless, and this goes into that hole. This is let's see if I can do this. This is just the axle, if you will, or the pivot for the brake itself, like that. And then I've got two pieces of oak, a hardwood that I made up, and these have a hole in them as well for the axle. This hole does not go all the way through. Well, it shouldn't go all the way through. I do have a block that I messed up and I put the hole all the way through it, and then I had to come back and backfill it with a piece of dowel rod. And then, of course, then these, let's see if I can find the one. Okay, this one here, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll have photographs as well. I radius this inside corner right here, because this particular block goes on this side, and this corner here needs to be radius so that it doesn't interfere with this bend. That's how it worked out for me. Of course, if you make this leg a little bit longer and then do your bend, you won't have that problem. But the dimension, if you can imagine these being on here, the dimension from the bottom of these blocks to the center line of the tubing here after it's bent, I wanted that pretty short because I wanted this to be low to the floor of the fuselage, so my heel can ride on it here. I didn't want this really tall, so that from the floor of the fuselage it stuck up really tall. So this is about as compact as I can get it with the bend, with the axle, and with the wood blocks not interfering with the bend. It's all kind of trial and error. You're trying to figure out the length from the pivot to where the cable is going to connect, and from the pivot up to the center line after the bend. But it didn't take too long to figure it all out, and it's pretty much just a matter of personal preference anyway. So let me fit this together, because I can't do it one-handed, and I'll come back. Okay, so here we are, fitted together. None of this is welded or epoxied or screwed or anything. That axle just slips into the lever itself, and then the wood pieces slip onto that axle. So the axle is free to spin inside of the wood blocks, and the lever itself is free to rotate on the axle. So this is free to move, as you see, as you can imagine. And then this assembly will get bolted through the floor of the fuselage. I wanted it bolted. I thought about epoxying these blocks to the floor, but I think it's important to be able to remove these to inspect the where that small stainless steel tubing passes through this lever tubing. I thought it was important to be able to get in there and inspect that, or maybe possibly over time replace either the lever itself or that little axle, the 1/4 inch tubing axle. So in order to do that, these blocks had to be removable. So I'm just going to screw these into the bottom of the fuselage with some T-nuts. Alright, so let me temporarily put this into the fuselage, and maybe I'll get some video of that.